Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trans in the Am. Today, I have with me Shae. She's going to be joining me for Friendly Friday. How are you doing today, Shae?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I know this is certainly not a Friday that we're recording this on, but I do thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with me and have a conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to get started off here. I kind of met you on Trans Twitter. How's your experience been so far? Have you met a whole bunch of really cool people, or is it kind of like negative?
It's been a mix. Mostly really good. There's a few people that I've been able to talk to, and it's been very helpful, especially since only recently. I think like just on Friday, I just got to go ahead from my doctor to begin transition. So leading up to that, talking to some people that I met through there has been helpful.
Hmm.
Um, there's been some negative experiences. It's kind of weird to see people who are in that space adopt positions that are very evidently harmful,
Hmm.
but it's also one of those things that's like I can see why you think that. Also, you're very young,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I can also see why you would think that as well. But things are a little bit more complex.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that there are there's a lot of very young people on trans Twitter. That's okay. But it just means that like a lot of personalities will change and a lot of opinions will develop and grow, and yeah, people will be different here in like 10 years or so. I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
it may not be the healthiest way, but it is a learning and growing experience either way.
That's
So
right. Well, it's one I'm not too unfamiliar with myself. This might come as a shock to you, but there for a while I was a big internet troll. When I had a
oh,
Facebook account, I was very toxic and negative when I was a teenager, and I don't know if whether that stems from any kind of like unhappiness with the family or whatever. There was a lot going on, but I know that I certainly did have a lot of growth over the last few years, and I'm 31, so yeah, I feel like I've kind of leveled out, and I'm a little bit more reasoned and stuff now. Um, Kind of sucks that I did have to go through that male puberty where I had that fucking giant ass spike of testosterone. People like
yeah,
you can produce like fucking what is it 1200 uh microgram. I don't know the measurement or something, but it's like way higher than you ever do in the rest of your life. Like once you hit what is it like 25 or something, that starts going down and it just never goes back up. And I
yeah.
know that
But by the time
testosterone
you
can
hit,
like what's that?
yeah, by the time you hit 25, it's like everything has stopped, and it kind of it either peters out or settles or starts slowly declining.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know it can be a contentious kind of drug. I know that I've seen a lot of people that get into like sports and stuff try to do testosterone in order to like increase their output to keep their energy levels high and to keep their I don't know muscles big. Sports, I guess. I don't know, but it results in like some kind of like you get a lot more irritable. You get a lot more you feel like you want to fight a lot more, when you've got those high levels of testosterone. And a lot of
Yeah,
times that can result in violence, and that's sad.
yeah. I think the angriest I've ever been. Well, I don't want to necessarily equate this, but for me, given also growing up in the male puberty and not liking that, I think the angriest I've ever been was when I played sports because
Oh
I
yeah.
really liked playing things like lacrosse in high school, but it was also that type of mentality that they would try to drill into you of always being angry was like, I don't like that.
Yeah. Mm. I think the angriest I was when was I played League of Legends.
That makes
That
sense.
was yeah. Yeah. No, it was rough because I don't know, like 45 minutes is a lot of time to ask to dedicate to uh, a game like League of Legends, especially when people go into the game and they start playing with the intention to, like, make everybody else have a bad time. Not great.
Yeah,
Didn't like that. Not a fan. But Pokemon Unite is a lot better. I'm gonna say, as far as MOBAs go, Pokemon Unite is my favorite so far. Heroes of the Storm was good too, though. You ever
I
play
played
that?
a Pokemon game. I've heard of Heroes of the Storm. I haven't played a Pokemon game since I was, I think, in my teenage years. So that's
Really?
kind of upsetting. I need to go back to that. But
Yeah, you got a lot to
it's,
catch
it's
up on.
finding time.
Well, yeah, most of my time is spent in Pokemon games looking for shiny Pokemon, and that can take a long. You know what a shiny Pokemon is?
I'm aware of the mechanic. I think it's something along the lines of like, I think it's how that studio is trying to do like a rarity mechanic
Hmm.
for them now. Again, I haven't played one in so long, but I hear my friends talk about it. It's like, oh, that sounds like a neat thing they're doing, and I haven't engaged with it in years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's basically just different colored palette, and that's it.
Mm,
There's no actual difference there. It's just a different color. And some of them
yeah.
are really good. Some of them are really bad. There's a sandcastle one that like it's shiny is it turns into black sand, and that is dope. I love that. That's
Color
hella cool.
coded, so they're collectible.
Yeah. Well, you know. But yeah, they started making shiny Pokemon cards now. So people are going wild over those. I don't know. I play the TCG. I'm lucky that I got into it when I did because not many people were. And then COVID happened, and then suddenly now everyone is into Pokemon cards because apparently it's just like cryptocurrency, right? That you can trade Pokemon cards for like 900 times what they're worth. Like, I don't know if you've seen what's been going on with those scalpers, especially like into like March of this year when things were like
Mhm.
lightening up. Oh my god, it's just impossible. Target stopped selling Pokemon cards because people were like fighting over them. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Go and look for Pokemon cards on target.com. You'll find nothing.
That is that is a funny reality to live in.
Yeah,
But I guess that kind of happens with everything in after COVID. Is that a
right.
whole lot of I guess you could say indoor kid hobbies kind of
Mhm.
spiked in growth. Like for instance, with the thing that I'm doing with like tabletop RPGs, they
Mhm.
became immensely popular, and then everybody had to figure out a way to play them in lockdown.
Yeah, right. Um I think tabletop RPGs are really great, and I think sites like Roll20 and stuff like that have really exploded in popularity since the
Mhm.
pandemic. And that's awesome. I love the idea of getting everybody together and having like a weekend game or something like that, where we all hop on Discord and we all play a campaign. That would be a lot of fun. Um, Tell me a little bit more about the one you're working on. What kind of theme is it?
It's sci-fi themed. It kind of got based off an idea that a friend of mine had I think a couple years ago when
Mhm,
we all first. Oh, what year is it? I think in 2017 we all really got into tabletop RPGs because I had just come off of the previous year one of the worst things that ever happened in my life, which is very personal. But, the group of friends that I had collected since then to kinda lift me out of it, I was really, really grateful for them, and I found out about this is gonna sound really bad because most people who got into tabletop games at that time are probably gonna say it was because of Critical Role. Unfortunately for me, it was because of Harmon Quest.
yeah.
So,
That's not so bad.
yeah,
I know Harmon Quest.
yeah, um, but a lot of people will probably hear his name and go,
Oh, yeah.
but no, I was watching that show with a friend, and we didn't know what was going on. We thought it was just people just we thought it was kinda like a, like a radio play thing. We
Mhm.
thought that's what the show was, and then we saw there was books around and they were rolling dice, and we're like, "Oh, wait, they're doing that D&D thing that I'd heard about and always assumed was really nerdy. Oh, this
Mhm.
is what that actually is. Oh, I wanna do this." So we got into doing that, and eventually we were like, fantasy is cool, but we'd really like to do something in a sci-fi setting
Mm.
because we're all big sci-fi nerds. We're all university students that have like some kind of science background.
Yeah.
So we looked for a system, and we didn't find anything that matched the same kind of stuff that we liked about D&D. Because now the fifth edition for that is out, and it's been out, and they're going to another one soon. But the cool thing about the design philosophy for fifth edition is that it's really good for getting your foot in the door.
Mhm.
If you don't know anything about these systems, it's really easy to jump into fifth edition and just have fun. Um, and something that people don't pay attention enough to in its design is that I think it even explicitly states you could follow almost none of these rules and you would still be playing the same game. So
Interesting.
it's really open to whatever the people who play it want to do with it. But there's not something, I mean, somebody who watches this is probably going to call me an idiot for saying that it doesn't exist, but I we haven't seen anything like that for a sci-fi setting. So we wanted to try to do that. And that's kind of what this project is going for, is to do for sci-fi what 5th edition kind of does for fantasy.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. You know, one thing that does come to mind, after I moved out of my parents' place, I moved into a place with a whole bunch of my people that were about my age that were in college, and they would have like wild drinking parties all the time. And one of the things that they all loved to do because they were a big group of nerds was play tabletop. And I got invited to a couple of the sessions. I never played a full campaign with any of them because I didn't have the time to dedicate, but it was a lot of fun. One of the first campaigns we played was a campaign based on the show Firefly. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, when we started, I had never seen it until we started working on this project, and the
Hmm.
person who is financing it asked me if I had ever seen the show Firefly. I was like, "No, I hadn't seen it yet, but I always wanted to." He's like, "Stop everything that you're doing. We are watching this now." And we watched it together over the course of like a week, and it became probably my favorite show so far.
It's awesome.
It's very fun.
Hmm. I love Nathan Fillion and basically anything he does.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, we're rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and there's a guest episode where he comes on and plays an actor that plays a detective that thinks he's a detective.
Mhm.
And so it was a lot of fun watching him play that character because he just gets really goofy with some of his stuff. But
Probably
no,
unfortunate that he's typecasted, but
yeah,
he is really good at what he does.
oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so we played a campaign like that. If I can find the information for it, I think you could pull a lot of really great ideas from that. Um, but I'll definitely look for it and try to send it over your way if you hadn't heard of
Yeah.
it before. But yeah, that
I mean,
was
I don't doubt that, I don't doubt that there are systems in place to do something for, like, a very, like, do whatever you want kind of sci-fi system. It's
mhm,
just, there's none that do it, very seamlessly. It always, like, it either dumps all the effort onto the person running it or the players,
right.
and we wanna go for something a little bit more simple.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, like you said, like fifth edition's a little bit more beginner friendly, right?
Yeah.
Like if
It's a great place to start.
okay. So yeah, if I had like a family member that's never played a tabletop, I could pull them into fifth edition and pretty much
Mhm.
learn the ropes, basically.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so I think doing that in like a sci-fi setting would be really exciting. I would love to see something like that because I'm a bigger fan of the sci-fi stuff than I am some of the more like traditional fantasy stuff, like with bows and
Mhm.
arrows and shit like that. But yeah, I would love to do that. I was a big Star Trek fan. Did you watch any of Star Trek?
Yeah, I have seen a little bit of it.
Um, my favorite series was it was either Next Generation or Voyager. It's between the two of them. But
Okay.
um, yeah, one of the series has this character called Q, and I can't remember the name of the actor that plays him, but it's on the tip of my tongue. But he's in a lot of really great stuff too. But he
Mhm.
plays this like goofy, like one-off, random, kind of like their interpretation of Loki, I guess. Trickster god just wanting to just like appear and
Yeah.
cause chaos, and that's it. And there's a couple episodes with him in it, and I always found those to be a delight because it kind of strayed from the more serious, like political show that Star Trek is, and kind of strayed in more into the, oh well, this would be fun kind of aspect of it, and I like that. So
Oh yeah, it's I think Star Trek has always been like a really good episodic kind of show, like
mm,
things like X Files or stuff like that that came after it, where it's just um, you don't need to necessarily, especially in the older one, you don't need to necessarily watch it every episode as it started. You can just jump into any episode, and just
mhm.
have fun with it, which is a lot like Firefly too.
Yeah, yeah. I was able to just pick up and sit down whenever they were hanging out watching it because they constantly had Firefly on repeat there. They were big Firefly fans. So, um, but yeah, it was a really great show. I really enjoyed it. Um, did you see the movie, the like wrap up that they did?
Yes.
What'd you think of that?
Um, I thought it was really good. It was kind of interesting that they did it. Um, I don't know. I have this thing where some of the media that I like the best is ones that I can kind of imagine being a tabletop game.
Hmm.
And the ending to the ending to Firefly felt a whole lot like somebody's attempt to wrap up a tabletop campaign because it's suddenly nobody in the show had plot armor and we were kind of tying everything together. So it was kind of nice and neat, if not a little sad to see it go, but it's better than watching it go on for multiple seasons and slowly degrade.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, better that it died early as a bright star than fade out over time, right?
Hopefully. Hopefully there's
Well,
not an alternative universe that's living a lot happier with a fully developed Firefly.
I don't think it would be too hard to develop a new series within the same universe, with some of the like remaining characters. I don't think that would be too hard, honestly. Um,
Oh, yeah, or even a completely new,
yeah,
cast and crew.
right.
They set up a whole lot of things that never really got looked into. Even in the movie, they started a few new interesting things with the setting that could have gone places.
Hmm.
So they could totally do that sometime down the line.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, studios are picking up older series for remaster and remake and new episodes and stuff like that all the time. I mean, I don't know if you saw what's happened with the Star Trek had a big anniversary this year and they started like 3 or 4 series all at the same time. So there's like 3 or 4
Oh,
new consecutive running Star Trek series going on right now. It's
okay.
wacky. Yeah, there's a lot.
Good for them. That requires a lot of effort and money.
Yeah, right?
For
Well,
that.
the cool thing is that Kate Mulgrew is coming back and playing a role in one of the new shows. So I'm interested to see that. She was Captain Janeway on Voyager. She
Okay.
also played Red in Orange Is the New Black, if you ever saw that.
I haven't seen that yet.
So good. It's so good. I love it, honestly. And the fact that they got Laverne Cox, an actual trans woman, to play a trans woman.
Mhm. That I did hear about.
Yeah.
That was nice.
She was phenomenal in that role. Like, holy shit, she blew it away. But I mean, it makes sense because she had a lot of personal experience to draw from, you know. But I'm excited to see what the future holds, not only for sci-fi and and media entertainment companies, but also for trans people. I
Mhm.
think we're seeing a lot of progress here lately, and although we're seeing a lot of bad stuff come out of Texas and stuff, I think
No.
we're seeing a lot of progress too. We're seeing a lot of social acceptance. Um, so I'm really
Yeah, it's
excited.
the slow march of history, at least as
Mm.
far as social issues go.
Right. Exactly. It'll take a while, but
Mm,
we'll get there. And I think it'll come quicker than most people expect.
hopefully.
Well, I certainly hope that we're not fighting for hundreds of years, you know. Um, that would be a shame. It'd be
Yeah.
a downright shame. But with I mean, you see that we have I don't know, big media representation now. So it's not something that's like completely fallen by the wayside. We actually were talking about this last night though about how there's not really big media representation for anyone who uses neopronouns. That's not something that I see too commonly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice that way, the average person can kind of get a read on it. Um, I don't know. I guess that's kind of one of I haven't seen much Star Trek, but what I do know of that series, that's one of the things that I always kind of liked about it was that it sort of kind of showed that a lot of what we have as social issues right now are just nobody cares in the future. I think like one of the bigger moments, I don't know what series it was, but it was when Sir Patrick Stewart was the captain of the show, and I think he has this monologue that's just kind of he just completely makes fun of somebody. Just like, why do you even care about any of this stuff that you do? Like, we've moved so far beyond it by the time our year has arrived.
Mhm.
And then you have like other like little additions into the show, like what's it called? There's like a type of uniform that humanity uses called a scant, where it's
Mm.
just it's just a dress if if
Yeah.
if it's not like based around sex or gender or
Mhm.
anything. It's just like if that's more comfortable while you're working, the Federation does not care.
Yeah, Geordie LaForge wore one of those. The engineer for the Enterprise wore one of those for a long time.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things about sci-fi is that you can kind of I mean that's what I think is most interesting about it and why I like things like The Expanse where it kind of allows you to imagine not just a future that's um interesting on a technological standpoint like you would have in like 50s or 60s sci-fi. But later on, it's the the things that people consider hot button social issues are very very different.
Mhm.
Like for example, in the Expanse, like nobody cares about race or whether or not like the very first episode has a gay couple, and the writing feels no need to bring it up because in the setting, why would the characters bring it up? It's the what's considered a social issue then is, what planet do you live on?
Right.
And that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this, but there was one of the big social boundaries that Star Trek first pushed was there was an episode with Captain Kirk in the original series where
Mhm,
he had a kiss with Uhura, the black communications officer, and that was the
mhm.
first one of the first media portrayals of an interracial kiss.
Yeah,
And this
that
was
would have been in the, 70s, wouldn't it?
well 60s 70s, but yeah, it was around the civil rights era
Yeah.
that this was happening, and that was incredible. It had a lot of people talking about it, and Star Trek is still going. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. But they've always been good at like pushing boundaries and commentating on social issues in their own way and stuff. So I think it's good. I've always found that like Star Trek fans are a lot. I don't want to draw any divisions here in nerd culture, but I've always found myself able to relate to Star Trek fans more than I can Star Wars fans. Um,
That makes
but
sense.
maybe that's because I didn't watch the films. I wasn't really into this. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
personal thing.
Well, there's a whole lot of, that's just like, um, I guess, like, a big thing to meme on in Twitter is, like, right-leaning media analysis. Like, you could take a surface level of something like Star Trek and read whatever you want. But if you dig deep into it, like even in the beginning when it talks about like, oh yeah, how did the world get so messed up and then not so messed up? It's like, oh, there's a very there's a very interesting political ideology that the Earth has now adopted that people like to think is pure evil nowadays.
Right. Yeah. I mean, um, I've really liked Star Trek. It's played a lot of very big roles in my life. My grandparents were big Trekkies, and as a kid, they dragged me to a bunch of Star Trek conventions. So I got to meet a lot of these like stars that I had no idea who they were at the time. I met Mark Hamill, who I believe was the body. No, not wait, no, not Mark Hamill. It was the other guy. David Prowse, was that his name?
Don't know this name.
Hang on, I'll Google it. But I also met the lady that played Deanna Troy. I can't remember her name
Mhm.
either. She was mean. She was mean. She was really mean. She was like, she got up there and she was late to the panel, and she was like really short with people, and she's like, "I'm not taking questions, no photos," and then she left.
Mm.
Okay, and then okay, okay, Deanna Troy, whatever.
It means different things to different people. It's probably the
Yeah.
oh, what's that movie that makes fun of that kind of person? It's the oh, it had the guy from Home Improvement in it.
Oh, that's right. It was David Prowse. I'm surprised I remembered his name, but he played the actual body of Darth Vader, whereas it was James Earl
Mm,
Jones who did the voice.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah,
that's
he
cool.
was there for some reason, I guess, signing autographs. Maybe it was like just a general nerd convention, and I don't know. I was like 6 years old. I had the dude who played Scotty like pick me
Mm,
up and just like shake me above his head and stuff. That was interesting. Um, yeah, I had an autograph from George Takei for a while. A
nice.
lot of that got lost though. Sad.
Mm,
But yeah, they had like the
no,
full. They had cosplay. I had no idea that my grandparents were such nerds, but looking back on it, they had the uniforms and they had the pins and everything. Ah,
that's cool.
it was great. It was awesome. But yeah, moving on. Let's do a different topic. You said that you were just starting your transition. How do you feel about all of this? Are you excited, nervous, full of
Nervous.
rage? Yeah.
It's not rage. No, I'm not full of rage. No, it's exciting, but it's also kind of scary. Um, I live in Pennsylvania right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up all my life in oh, this is probably gonna dox myself, but who cares? Um, I grew up in Chester County,
Mm-hmm.
and I think my doctor right now has kind of summarized it really well. Is that I think I don't want to say what her institution is, but the it's I don't know how to describe it. It's like a general practitioner rolled
Mm-hmm.
into one. You can basically go into this. It's a big state medical facility for any kind of medical care you would need.
Hmm.
And it is, as far as I'm aware and as far as she's aware, it's the only one outside of Philadelphia or Harrisburg that does anything for transgender or any type of
Wow.
medical care that you would need related to LGBTQ issues. So she said it's like being in a sea of red. And I was like, yeah, no, that sounds a lot. That sounds really apt for PA. So it's a little scary, but
Mm.
I'm excited. You know, gone 26 years without
Yeah.
really living life to the fullest. I'm kind of excited to start that up.
Right. It is exciting. Once you get in the swing of things, it feels like it's a lot at once, but
Mhm,
each thing will give you a little bit of euphoria in its own way, you know? So, I mean, like buying a purse or buying a bigger wallet for me has just been a great experience overall. These are things that like I've always, I guess, like had a slight yearning for that I
mhm,
didn't like recognize, but like, I don't know. I like buying this stuff.
yeah, it's. I mean, I don't. It's different for everybody too, right? I mean,
Hmm.
even if you could take two, um, I don't know how you identify as, but you could take like two binary trans people, and they could have like completely different things that would, you know, uh, that they're drawn to about it. Um, I mean that's kind of why I always see gender or anything related to it as not. It's I don't really see it as very rigid.
Hmm.
We can. I mean, certainly you could think of it as like bimodal, but it's different for everybody. So I'm excited to see what all of that comes down to. I can certainly think of a lot of things throughout my life where I was like, "Oh man, I really wish I could do that." But just didn't really get an opportunity to.
Yeah.
But no, that's gonna change, and I'm
Yeah.
happy for that.
Absolutely. No, I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited for anybody starting their transition, honestly. Do you know if you're going to start on the pills or are you going to just straight up start with injections?
It starts with pills, the way that she does it. I mean, like I said, this is like the one place
Hmm.
legitimately,
Yeah.
and they're very good about it. Basically, the way it's going to work is start on pills, a lot of blood tests, a lot of um, it's a whole lot of support, a lot more than I thought I was
Mm.
gonna get. So I'm very lucky. I think I got out of that doctor's office and I texted people. I was like, I must be the luckiest person in the state right now.
That is so awesome. I know that feeling so well. Like when you go in expecting the worst, especially from like a healthcare provider or something like
Hmm.
that, and then you come out and like all of your fears are assured and everything works out and you end up feeling better than you expected. Like that's such a relief and I'm so happy for you. That's such a good
Thanks.
feeling.
Yeah, you go in thinking that they're gonna look at you like you have 3 heads, and then it's just a medical professional. It's like, "Yeah, no, we can do this. It's medical care."
Yeah,
So, that's the perspective that they're taking it from.
exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's medical care and it needs to be treated as such by more folks. I think a lot of people see it as like I don't know. A lot of gender critical, quote unquote, people see it as like a fetish thing that like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
you're so perverted. You want to grow boobies, gross. The
yeah,
one thing to focus on is that they are never this antagonistic toward trans men, right? It's
yeah.
always the trans women, and I think a lot of it stems from this like level of visceral disgust. There was something like, do you remember it was a study when gay rights were a hot topic that came out that said that like people actually do feel like visceral disgust when they see two men kissing or something like that, like the same level that they would I don't know, like gore on the internet or something like that, like
Some of that might be due to socialization
yeah.
because, or maybe I was just a really weird child, but, um, I would grow up with, um my parents were really open about showing me
Mhm.
stuff, like, we would watch, like, PG-13 movies or something.
Yeah.
So, like, every now and again, there'd be something like, oh god, I think one movie that they brought home one night and started watching just because they probably didn't know what it was about was Brokeback Mountain,
Mm.
and, yeah, so when some of those scenes happened and I was, like, 10 or something, I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't." It's just a thing.
Yeah.
It's probably a disgust that some people learn. I mean, it might be really early on for some people depending upon where they live, but
Yeah.
a lot of yeah, like you said, a lot of people think of it as a sex thing. It's like, no, it's I mean, if I wanted to go back far enough, I think the earliest thought that I can think of as a kid, I was like, no, I just wanted to be like the girls in Disney movies.
Yeah.
It's not a it's not entirely I mean, yeah, it is a sex thing, but it's not entirely a it's not even 50% that,
Right.
it's just a life thing.
When I was a child, I had this friend and I can't remember her name because I don't think I was like fully conscious, enough to like
Yeah,
form memories,
mm,
like remember people's names and stuff like that. But we would go to her house, and my grandma was really good friends with her mom, and we would play with her toys while we were there. And
mhm,
her toys were like dollhouses and stuff. And I fucking loved that shit. I was ecstatic.
yeah.
And I just, like, I found myself asking my grandmother to take me over to her house more so that I could play with her doll houses because we didn't have any. Me and my brother, like growing up, the two of us, of course, our parents never bought us doll houses. I didn't even
Mhm,
know it was a thing that I would enjoy playing with because it was all, um, I don't know, it was all packaged in pink. And
yeah,
honestly, I'm not too fond of pink as a color. Still, TBH. I mean, it's cute, but like a lot of it was packaged in like hot pink stuff. And that's not cute. Hot pink is not a cute color. Pastel pink is a very cute color. The pink on the trans flag is a very cute pink. Hot pink? No. Hot pink is, hey, this is a warning. You should stay away. Hot pink is like vibrant yellow, like you see on street signs, or like a bright flashing red that you see on the top of a police car or an ambulance or something
Uh,
like that.
I'm
Hot pink
imagining
is like,
Bocce using hot pink.
yeah, hot pink is like, hey, pay attention to this right now. If I
Yeah,
wanted people to look at my lips, I would paint them hot pink. I would get some hot pink lipstick and just go, yeah, absolutely. But
it's a color found only in nature for plants that wanna kill you.
it's dangerous. Watch out. They'll
Um,
get you.
yeah, no, even like that with, going over and, like, playing with specific toys, like,
Hmm.
I guess that's another misconception that people have is that it's either one or the other. Like,
Hmm.
no, I still have a lot of interests that people would think are very masculine. Like, I like going and playing airsoft. I don't know why I'm drawn to that thing, but it's like, I mean, I go out to a field and it's like a bunch of, it's either a bunch of very dude bro-y kind of guys, or it's a
Hmm.
bunch of guys that have like come out of Afghanistan and you can like look at it and be like, oh yeah, no, you've seen something. And then
uh,
you have me walking up with a ponytail and everything else. It's like, I don't
yeah.
belong here, but I like this.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's the same way, like, I really enjoy laser tag, and
Hmm.
I'm not very much of a physical kind of person, but I do like the, like, sneaking around and, like, hiding and, like, playing
Yeah,
as a spy, or, like, playing in that kind of scenario. That's a lot of fun. I
it would
don't
be
think,
really
like.
nice.
Hmm?
Um, yeah, no, I was just gonna say that it'd be really nice if some of these like little things that we kind of have with like thoughts about gender and all that kind of stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it has to be blue or pink. It's like I kind of wish that if we were to talk about this kind of stuff, and this probably doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to talk about after this, but it's like conversations on Twitter or
Mhm.
conversations that you'll have with people randomly. I kind of wish that if you wanted to seriously talk about stuff like gender, we kind of dropped the blue versus pink kind of thinking about it,
Mhm.
because it's kind of useless. I mean, people are just whoever they are. It's becoming increasingly apparent that gender has next to nothing to do with um like if you were to raise a kid, not necessarily enforcing those type of like, oh, it's this or this,
Mhm.
you would probably see that people just sort of genuinely pursue things that they enjoy, or and that could be like anything from expression to just the toys that they play with. Like, it doesn't, at least in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily seem like that always really matters. Like, hell, tabletop RPGs were something that were considered to be like a guy thing. Like, it was always considered like the nerdy thing. But like, I mean, you could interview. There was an interview that I remember watching with the guy who ran one of the first stores that ever got like the three little booklets for D&D. Like, that was the first
Mhm.
tabletop RPG. Very first thing he did, play with a group of his friends that included his girlfriend. Like, all of these hangups that we have are just they only exist in our brains for this kind of stuff. It's not reality.
Well, I think a lot of it also is a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, because in the reality that we live in, right, with the market capitalism here and all that good stuff,
Mm,
um, companies that make these products are going to try to find the best way to sell the most of them. And sometimes that
mhm,
means kind of like leaning into the audience you wish to appeal to the most. And yeah, if
yeah,
you're more successful if making doll houses for girls, you're going to try to appeal your product to girls so that more girls buy it. Like,
mhm,
and you're not going to want to appeal to boys. So I think it is kind of like a, well, more girls are into it, so they try to appeal more to girls, which means more girls get into it, which pushes boys away, and blah blah, all this stuff. Like, it really
yeah,
is more kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, and
yeah.
it's going to
And
take a
and you
lot of
might
like.
even and
Mhm.
you might even remove those things and find that there's still like a majority one way or the other. But I mean, like, when it comes to stuff like that, that shouldn't be. I wish that didn't factor into people's thinking about anything clinical. Because this, I mean, if you're gonna base like if there's ever gonna be a law, and most likely nowadays Texas, of like, oh yeah, can you get healthcare for this sort of thing. Well, did you play with doll houses back in the day? It's like, that matters to nobody.
Yeah. Um, I will say that um, people tend to care less about an issue if they don't know someone who's personally affected by it. If
Oh, yeah.
if someone doesn't know any trans people, if they don't have any trans people in their life, they're less likely to care about trans rights. They're less likely to even have that on their radar and know what's going on in the
Mhm,
community. Same way for gay people. And I feel like the way that things are going, the more trans people that come out, the more people are going to have trans people in their lives. And I think that everyone coming out is important. I think, of course, you should take your time and only do it at your comfort level. But I think
mhm.
it should be a good thing. I think we should get more people um, to be in the lives of cis people and to bring them into that conversation. Because either way, whether you want to agree with it or not, we're going to have a majority approval to get some laws done and some things rewritten and things justice done the way that it should be. And like we're going to have to work with a lot of these people that, right now kind of want to hurt us and say mean things to us and stuff like that. But, the more people that they know in their lives that come out as trans, the more kind of pressure that they're going to feel from their social circle. So they're either going to seclude themselves into a very, very niche community, or they're going to open themselves up and allow themselves to feel the love that, their friends want them to.
Yeah, it's like something that somebody told me, a while ago, is that these people, um, who are vehemently against any sort of LGBTQ issue, um, for probably the vast majority of them, it's not that they're, like, purely evil people. They think they're doing what the right thing to do is. They're just very, very, misguided, or they're having, they're incorrectly putting their fears in the right place. I mean, hell, like, I messaged back and forth with somebody that you would probably call a turf, and they were like, they got really hung up with stuff about healthcare. It's like, why do trans people always talk about healthcare and the barriers? We all have the same. It's like, well, yeah, we all get shafted by the healthcare system, but it's the only thing we're arguing for is like, hey, can we not have additional barriers on what's already there for people who don't have money?
Right.
Um, but yeah, like when I came out, it was like a switch was flipped with my family.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, like, I had plenty of conversations with them, and it was a shock to my mom. But, after a while, they were like, "We don't fully understand it. We want to continue to learn, but the way that we see it, we can't stop you doing something that's gonna make you happy." Like, even my uncle, who's Air Force vet, the kind of person who keeps Fox News in the background, like, he
Hmm.
got told about it, and then, like, his first reaction was like, "Okay, that's just how things are." If you can attach a most of the time with people who have been convinced not to trust any sort of, academic source, you can make an emotional appeal to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that comes from somebody they know coming out, which not everybody has the bandwidth to talk about this stuff, and I want to try to be the person that has that bandwidth because, I have a lot of personal friends from a whole lot of backgrounds. Like, the neighbors that I grew up with were very, very Christian.
Hmm.
So much so that they're all of their kids were homeschooled, like, that much, and, you know, they know me very well, well, besides this, but, a few months down the line when they're like, "Oh, you look different," I wanna be the person that can explain to them comfortably, like, this is what transgender people are like. We're not monsters, we're just people. We just require a lot of healthcare."
Yeah, exactly. And that's really all it is. All it should be. It's just
Mhm,
people who require extra healthcare. I mean, just the same way anybody who requires extra healthcare would, I feel like it should be normalized. It shouldn't be something that, we see as this awful thing. But
yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. And I'm really glad to hear that you've got, a relatively supporting family. Not certainly not one that's trying to kick you out or anything right now, right? So that's good.
Well, unfortunately, a family that I have left the last 6 years was pretty bad, but, of the family that's still alive and do know in a close circle, very supportive, but have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. I can relate. I've had a lot of really interesting family things happen these last couple of years, but yeah, if you ever want to talk, I'm totally open. Just send me a message and we can talk, okay? But yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you have any other things that you wanted to talk about.
Not that I can think of. I'm very new to this, despite wanting to, go the gamut of making games and streaming and trying to be a very public person more so than I used to be.
Hmm.
Um, but unfortunately, I can't think of anything. This is kind of your
Oh, this is
your
fine.
show. You're rolling with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, are you streaming right now? Do you have a Twitch stream you'd like to plug?
I do. I am so new to it that I can't even remember off the top of my head what the link is. But if anybody follows me on Twitter, there's a link tree to anything
Okay.
that I'm going to be doing, and I know either later today or by the time that this goes up, there's certainly going to be something on there that explains the status of everything that I'm working on right now.
Hmm.
Because last month there was a lot of changes that had to be made, and now that I'm in a secure place to work on these projects, and also in a secure place mentally because of transition, things are gonna hopefully work a lot very smoothly going forward.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll put links and stuff in the description. So don't worry, I've got you covered as far as that goes. But well, I do want to go ahead and maybe wrap up here. I think this is be a really great point. I do want to thank you again for taking the time to come out. Of course, you're always welcome back on anytime. I'd love to have you on for game night. Did you make it to the last one?
I didn't because I had to
Wow,
dog sit, but
gotcha. No worries. Well, I'm gonna see if I have enough energy to do one this week. But I've got a lot of interviews set up this week, so we'll see. But either way, yeah, I do want to thank you for coming out, and I hope to see you there for game night sometime. Thank you all for coming out to watch Friendly Friday. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a double feature this week. I've got an interview coming up tomorrow that I'll be featuring this Friday as well. So definitely look forward to that. But yeah, thank you all. Take care and stay unique.